meeting, ladies and gentlemen. Before our meeting begins tonight, we will have an invocation offered by Commissioner Lockhart, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance.
Dear Lord, thank you for letting us gather today. Help us look at each other's backgrounds and differences and come together to help move our city forward and provide for the common welfare and defense of all of our people today. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Craftsman, would you call the roll, please?
Ms. Twine? Here. Mr. Poole?
Here.
Mr. Waddington?
Here.
Mr. Murray?
Here.
Ms. Lloyd?
Here.
Mr. Lockhart?
Here.
Mr. Brady?
Here. Commissioners, you have before you the minutes of our meeting of April 24th, 2017. What is your pleasure?
Mr. Chairman,
Waddington.
I move that we accept the minutes of the April 24th meeting and dispense with the final reading.
Second.
And a motion, second discussion. Without objection, the motion will be approved. Hearing no objection, the motion is approved. We turn to audience participation. Anyone wishing to address any of our regular legislative agenda items tonight, please step to the microphone, give us your name and address, and share with us your thoughts, please.
Sharon Johnson, 1139 5th Street. I have several things here I want to bring up. Lions Park is on the agenda. We're finally going to get that done. Glad to see that. The price tag is $656,000 with $300,000 coming out of Issue 8 infrastructure. Work is to be completed September 29th, 2017. And I'd like to know, when you get to this part here, I think this is a lot of money here for green space and a parking lot. And there were no details on this $656,000. I'd like to know what that involves. And the next one is Trust of Lands. And I'm not sure what's going on with this. And I think there's an additional $9,500 coming out of the Battery Park TIF for this Trust of Lands. I don't know what that is for. Is that part of the market study that they're doing? There seems to be a delay in the designs. The contract expired December 2016. And now there's a market study going on, and who's paying for that market study are anonymous donors. I don't think that should be anonymous, especially if that's our land they're doing market studies on. I'd like just to know what the $9,500 is going towards. The last one is the block by block second reading. I'm not for this. I think this is going to be a monster in the making here. It's costing $100,000 for cleanup work downtown, and $50,000 is coming out of the Issue 8 funds. And in the contract, I don't understand why there weren't any boundaries placed on here. From what boundary, what side of town, what details downtown. There were no boundaries set in the contract, which I think there should have been, of where they have to clean up and check. We're going through a nonprofit for this, so we're kind of circumventing the bidding process. The check's going to be made directly paid to Main Street, and I think that if merchants want this extra service, they should pay for it. Seems like Main Street has changed their focus, and now they're playing lobbyists to downtown. Whatever downtown wants, we're going to give it to them. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Johnson. Anyone else present wishing to address the commission on any of the regular agenda items? If not, then we have a presentation from Sherry Smith with the Sandusky Digital Academy. And, welcome.
Hi.
Step to the podium there and share your presentation with us, please. Thank you for being here.
My name is Sherry Smith. Like you said, I'm the Alternative Education Director for Sandusky City Schools and /principal of Sandusky Digital Academy. Okay, first I want to start out by telling you what Sandusky Digital Academy is not. We are not a diploma mill, and we are not a school for quote-unquote bad kids. So I want to get out there. That's something we are trying to change. Right now, our population of students, we have students who are working, students who just don't like the hustle and bustle of the high school. They want a more quiet environment. We have student parents. We have students with medical issues. We have students who've had anxiety issues, who've had surgeries. We have students who are taking care of their siblings. I also had a student who was taking care of grandma because grandma had Alzheimer's. So he was able to come and work half a day and then do the rest of his work online at home. Our students work on it with an online platform. They also have teachers, teacher-centered, teacher-directed, and they also do end of course and test prep. So far this year, our students have earned, they have completed 523 classes and have earned 262 credits. We have graduated so far 45 students. On the horizon for next year, I'm not sure how long this was supposed to be, so I'm kind of going by, I had a nice presentation, but they said that you didn't have any hookups for that, so. Darn it, because it was really nice. But anyway.
I'm not sure why you got that information, but okay.
Yeah, okay, yeah, well, that's what they told me. So on the horizon, what we're looking at doing is we are moving to Jackson Middle School, or the Jackson building. So we are looking at starting a whole new program. I want our students more community involved. So that's something we have been working on. We're going to rebrand, because we want to take away that stigma that's for the bad kids, it's a bad school, because it's not. We're looking at new building, new curriculum. We're looking at giving our students computers and internet cards. So I think that's going to be a plus. And like I said before, more community involvement. That's about all I have.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, thank you for being here. Commissioners, any comments or questions?
Ms. Smith, you mentioned that you're moving to Jackson, so you're vacating Adams?
Yes,
Okay.
we're taking over the lower portion of Jackson.
Mr. Chairman,
Ms. Poole?
thank you, Ms. Smith. It's really nice to know, for the public to find out all the good things that are happening through the schools are doing for the kids. It sounds like we're providing for more than just kids that have just the normal needs. It's great to see that with the Global Initiative Program, the arts program that you folks are doing, and this just shows that the board is looking for ways to ensure that all the kids in our community have an opportunity regardless of what their circumstances are.
Yes, sir.
Thank you so much for getting the word out so that people recognize that.
And Ms. Poole, I want to thank you publicly for the initiative, or however we got to this point in time. You were part of the process, I know. We're going to have a rolling series of presentations about different aspects of what they're doing at the Sandusky City Schools, because obviously that's important integrally to what we're doing and our community. So we thank you, Ms. Smith, for being here tonight to kick off the series. And if you let the other folks know that AV is available, and
I will.
looking for a presentation, 5 to 10 minutes, something like that, and that's we're off to a good start. So
Absolutely. I'll let
thank you
them
for
know.
what you do.
All right, thank you.
Commissioners, we have several communications from staff recommending various pieces of legislation. Would someone care to make a motion to recommend, to accept those?
So moved.
Second.
There's been a motion and second. Discussion. Without objection, the motion will be approved. And hearing no objection, the motion is approved. So I turn with some trepidation to the consent agenda items, because I've gotten it right once in the process. I'm going to see if I can get it right a second time tonight. First, the question is, does anyone care to remove any of the consent agenda items? If not, then I wonder if someone would care to, no, I almost got it wrong. Thank you, Ms. Cresser. Ms. Cresser, would you present the consent agenda items?
That's still wrong. You got it wrong.
I got it wrong still?
We're good.
Present first.
Yeah.
He started.
Went down the wrong path to begin with. Let's be clear.
I steered out of the skid.
We'll let you know.
Okay.
On tonight's consent agenda, we have, the first item is a second reading for an amendment to the Planning and Zoning Code regarding transient rentals. Item B is an encroachment license for Katine LLC at 202 Columbus Avenue. Item C is a one-year priority use agreement with Ohio Rails Soccer for Dorn Community Park. And item D is an addendum to the lease agreement with Owen Sound Transportation for use of the Jackson Street Pier.
Commissioners, having heard these indications, what is your pleasure?
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Grady?
I should like to make a motion to accept the consent agenda and declaring that all of these ordinances, A through D, as drafted and presented to the City Commission under the consent agenda shall take effect in accordance with the section reflected in the ordinances, whether it be 13 or 14.
Second.
Been a motion, second. Discussion? Mr. Cresser, would you poll the commissioners on the motion, please?
Ms. Twine?
Yes.
Mr. Poole?
Yes.
Mr. Waddington?
Yes.
Mr. Murray?
Yes.
Ms. Lloyd?
Yes.
Mr. Lockhart?
Yes.
Mr. Brady?
Yes.
And now on the ordinances.
Ms. Twine?
Yes.
Mr. Poole?
Yes.
Mr. Waddington?
Yes.
Mr. Murray?
Yes.
Ms. Lloyd?
Yes.
Mr. Lockhart?
Yes.
Mr. Brady?
Yes.
Those ordinances are adopted. Item number 1 of our regular agenda, please, Mr. Cresser.
Yes, item number 1 is a second reading of an ordinance authorizing and approving a grant in the amount of $50,000 to Sandusky Main Street Association doing business as Downtown Sandusky Incorporated in relation to their Clean and Safe Pilot Program.
Commissioners, having heard this communication, how do you wish to proceed?
Mr. Chairman,
Ms. Twine?
I move for the adoption of this ordinance under the second reading.
Second.
Been a motion, second. Discussion?
Mr. Chairman,
Poole?
I have some questions to see if some things that were that I addressed at the last meeting have been taken care of. At the last meeting, they made reference to getting a dumpster and block by block would be depositing trash overflow in it. And hadn't worked out the details, so I'd like to know now in the last 2 weeks where and how that's gonna happen. Question is whether or not this is actually gonna work, and that's really what my questions are too. We're gonna spend $50,000 and I need to try to make sure that what we're proposing is actually something that's going to happen.
Through the commission president to Commissioner Poole, we have not specifically located a dumpster for that service, but it is common that they often will work with the local communities to identify the appropriate place for refuse to be taken when they top off the trash cans. So we're very confident, and Director Link has been working with us to determine how we'll do that here. Ultimately, Block by Block is waiting to ensure this vote passes so that they know that they have a contract to begin solving those issues. But I can assure you, as having run an organization that administered one of these in the past, locating a centrally located dumpster for people to take a few scores of trash cans topped off refuse to is not going to be a major challenge for the program.
Mr. Chairman,
Poole?
for the commission's consideration, I've listened to what was described. I would point out that there's no place in this contract that identifies this dumpster or who's gonna pay for it. We have a contract to have our dumpsters emptied. We have that same contract gets each trash can emptied. This is an additional expense. It's not been covered. And my issue with this deals with, this isn't a well-thought-through plan that I think is gonna work. It makes no sense for us to spend $50,000 to redo what we're already paying for. And I mentioned that before and gave them 2 weeks to figure it out. The fact of the matter is, if you put a dumpster in whatever location additionally downtown to the dumpsters that are already there, somebody has to pay for that in addition to what's already in this contract. In addition to the fact that it's overkill because we pay people to empty the trash cans. So that's for the commission to consider about whether or not this is a viable contract that actually is going to provide us enough value for the money we're putting into it. So my next question then is, Mr. Chairman, is the snow removal, what's the setup for how they're gonna remove snow? Doesn't make much sense. We already have some sort of a snow removal plan. How do they work into this that justifies 2 full-time people all winter long? That's the question.
Through the commission president to Commissioner Poole, the first year of this program will actually only be one full-time individual, just to be clear, with seasonals. That keeps the cost lower for the full year. And it was never the intent of having either two or one full-time people, that they'd spend all their time clearing snow. They'd have the ability to clear ice and snow, but they would be many other projects that they could take on, including special projects and routine maintenance that could also take place during the winter. What the contract does call for is that during events of snow, they clear all of the non-privately maintained intersection, so the crosswalks and other aspects of the downtown area that don't currently, no one has an obligation privately to pay for. And then as time allows beyond that, to continue to assist private property owners with or our own city greenhouse, which provides those services today, with the additional clearing of ice and snow from other sidewalks downtown.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Poole.
just for clarify, I'm going to read from the proposal. And if you have changed the proposal, that's fine, but it says, this proposal is that we will employ 2 full-time employees downtown throughout the year, doing special projects, essentially the late fall and winter. Special projects will be initiated to tackle issues that are overlooked or not addressed by the city due to limited resources. It says assisting with setting up and tearing down special events, installing, removing daily placemaking equipment such as tables and chairs, assisting with holiday decorations as requested by the city, and assisting with snow and ice removal. I submit to you that other than assisting with holiday decorations, which is probably a week's worth of work, the rest of the winter, it's assisting with snow is all that's on the list. And there may very well be a bunch of other projects that you think they're going to do downtown, and if you want to speak to them, that's fine. But the fact is, what's been proposed does not. So I'll leave it at that. 240-hour, or I should say, you did propose 2 40-hour weeks, and I submit that even one for the winter that the taxpayers are paying for does not make sense. And now my final comment is this. This project is not a capital infrastructure project. Capital infrastructure refers to fundamental structures or facilities, roads, bridges, traffic lights, multi-use paths, etc., that are needed for the operation of the city and can be preserved for a significantly greater number of years. Trash you pick up today is not a capital investment. So the use of capital infrastructure money for this, I think, is inappropriate. This commission obviously can do what they please, but purporting this is something that they promised the public they would do. I would suggest that we are falling very, very short. If you chose to put this money toward fixing parking lots, improving the lights, any actual infrastructure projects downtown, I would be in support of that. So thank you.
Additional questions or comments? I will note that I will be abstaining for the same reasons I indicated last time, because I own property that abuts the area that would be impacted. If not, then Mrs. Cresser, would you poll the commissioners on the legislation, please?
Ms. Twine?
Yes.
Mr. Poole?
No?
Mr. Waddington?
Yes.
Mr. Murray?
Abstain.
Ms. Lloyd?
Abstain.
Mr. Lockhart?
Yes.
Mr. Brady?
Yes.
That legislation passes on second reading. Item number 2, please.
Item 2 is a resolution supporting House Bill 64, expunge if criminal sanction based on mistaken identity, and declaring this resolution shall take immediate effect in accordance with Section 14 of the City Charter.
Commissioners, having heard this communication, how do you wish to proceed?
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Waddington.
I move for the adoption of this resolution under suspension of rules in full accordance with Section 14 of the City Charter.
Second.
Then a motion, second discussion. Ms. Cresser, would you poll the commissioners on the resolution, please?
Ms. Twine?
Yes.
Mr. Poole?
Yes.
Mr. Waddington?
Yes.
Mr. Murray?
Yes.
Ms. Lloyd?
Yes.
Mr. Lockhart?
Yes.
Mr. Brady?
Yes.
And now on the, let's see, that was to be on the, did I say motion or resolution?
It was the motion.
The motion, okay. And now on the resolution, please.
Ms. Twine?
Yes.
Mr. Poole?
Yes.
Mr. Waddington?
Yes.
Mr. Murray?
Yes.
Ms. Lloyd?
Yes.
Mr. Lockhart?
Yes.
Mr. Brady?
Yes.
That resolution is adopted. Item number 3, please.
Item 3 is a resolution supporting the amendment of portions of the Ohio Revised Code and the Ohio Administrative Code to reduce algae causing pollution in Lake Erie, and declaring that this resolution shall take immediate effect in accordance with Section 14 of the city charter.
Commissioners, having heard this communication, how do you wish to proceed?
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Poole.
I move for the adoption of this resolution under suspension of the rules in full accordance with Section 14 of the city charter.
Second.
Got a motion and second. Discussion? Commissioners, I appreciate your consideration of this resolution. This was proposed to us by the Ohio Environmental Council. There is no other community in Ohio or on Lake Erie that is more impacted proportionally by the health of Lake Erie. Not only do we supply drinking water, safe drinking water, great award-winning drinking water to most of the county, much of our fishing, tourism business is directly reliant upon the health of Lake Erie. It's long past time that the state take additional measures. They have the ability to do so, and the legislation that the resolution that we are considering would encourage the state to take that additional action that's available to them so that Lake Erie can be better protected. So, appreciate that. Further discussion? Mr. Crusher, would you poll the commissioners on the motion, please?
Ms. Twine?
Yes.
Mr. Poole?
Yes.
Mr. Waddington?
Yes.
Mr. Murray?
Yes.
Ms. Lloyd?
Yes.
Mr. Lockhart?
Yes.
Mr. Brady?
Yes.
And now on the resolution?
Ms. Twine?
Yes.
Mr. Poole?
Yes.
Mr. Waddington?
Yes.
Mr. Murray?
Yes.
Ms. Lloyd?
Yes.
Mr. Lockhart?
Yes.
Mr. Brady?
Yes.
That resolution is adopted. Item number 4, please.
Item number 4 is a resolution declaring the necessity for the city to proceed with the proposed Lions Park retrofit project, approving the specifications and engineer's estimate of cost thereof, and directing the city manager to advertise for and receive bids in relation thereto, and declaring that this resolution shall take immediate effect in accordance with Section 14 of the city charter.
Commissioners, having heard this communication, how do you wish to proceed?
Mr. Chairman,
Ms. Lloyd.
I move for the adoption of this resolution under the suspension of the rules and in full accordance with Section 14 of the city charter.
Second.
There's been a motion and second. Discussion. Mr. Klein, we have discussed this many times before. This is one of the last major pieces to snap into place with respect to the long-term Lions Park capital improvement plan. I know we started with that when I was on the commission the last time. That's a tip of the hat to the importance of this long-term planning. Get a plan where you're going to spend this kind of money, execute on it slowly over a period of time. As you have dollars that become available, you and your staff have been crackerjack at finding grant opportunities. That's evidenced by what we're considering tonight. But it's also a reminder that it takes some patience as well as diligence to get to this point. But could you recap where we are and what the nature of the expense is? Because this is an expensive project.
Yes, it is. And I would like to start by apologizing for the lack of information in the communication that was sent to commission. So what I did is I printed out some copies of, the first one there is going to be 2 pages that show the existing master plan. And the next that you will be receiving a single page of shows the current layout. And it shows that it's not really that much different. It's not dramatically different. What you see in the original, the copies that are stapled together, show kind of a sinuous path, a sinuous parking facility. And that project, when we originally costed this out, was it was over $1 million to do that original parking lot the way it was laid out. So when we were looking at this and trying to figure out how to implement this project, and with the grant dollars that were available, we wanted to come up with something that was similar and also obviously have some cost savings. So the layout that's in front of you in the single page is about $500,000 to $600,000 less than the original design. I feel by looking at it that it could be argued that it might even be a safer design. The big concern on the right-hand side, on the east side of the property, that parking lot that's shown there, or the drive entrance that's shown there on the existing, or the master plan, I would contend that that might be a speedway for people trying to get from one end to the other. And it could create some high speeds in some problem areas. Also, there's multiple turnarounds, multiple places where people might, there might be some accidents out there as well. So as far as what's going into this, we've got a couple $100,000 worth of pavement. We've also included the Winnebago Avenue, which is the little extension right at the drive entrance, the main drive entrance. We've included improving that as well. That was something that was left out. That's not part of the park. It's technically public right of way, but why have a messed up street going right into a beautifully new parking lot? So that was about 50 to 60,000 we added on top of it. There's about $85,000 in landscaping and bioretention in here, which with the bioretention, you also have to put in the sewers and under drains. We've got about 800 feet of sewers and under drains, and those are the areas where the biggest costs are to this project that elevated it to the $600,000 level. One thing I would like to point out that we are continuing is the pedestrian entrance on LaSalle on the east end of the project. We're cutting off the drive entrance, so there will still only be one entrance on Winnebago, but there will still be that pedestrian to the bike path. We will also be putting a buffer between the parking lot and the bike path. You see on the original plan, the bike path or pedestrian walkway abutted the right side of the property, the east side of the property, where that could also create some issues if a child might have wandered a little bit. At least you have that buffer. And you'll also see that there's the natural areas. On the darker one, the newer version, there are 4 areas that are hashed along the western end of the property and then one in the southeast. Those are going to be natural gardens. And one of the things that we're going to be doing is we've called for the seed mix to include milkweed, which goes with the monarch status of the city. So we're incorporating those into this as well. Now, one thing that I'm sure everybody's going to question is the parking. The plan, the original master plan, had 70 total spaces, with 6 of those being handicap. The new plan shows 82 total spaces with 4 handicap spots, and those handicap spots are shown to be at the walkways near that would lead directly to the splash pad, basketball playground area, and then the other one is right by the pavilion. So there are those 4 spots that are shown there. If you look at the existing and compare it to the proposed and compare it to the master plan, it is very similar, and we do have that turnaround at the north end. It can accommodate artwork on the inside of it. It can accommodate the memorial statue, something along those lines, and it's also got a drop-off area with an additional 4 benches and a bike rack with some bollards as well to make sure that cars cannot pull out onto the existing bikeway pedestrian path. So we are creating that drop-off area to the stone beach, the gravel shoreline there, but we are also making sure that it's pedestrian and friendly as well, and we're creating those buffers to make it as safe as possible. With that, if anybody has any questions.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Clymes, Waterton.
I'd like to say thank you. It's been 10 years. 10 years ago, you were on the commission with me then. They said, no way, forget it, have it go away. And then we had probably several private meetings where we talked about how can we do it. And it was one little, like Mr. Murray said earlier, one little piece at a time. And sometimes that's how you can get something big. Instead of having it could all went away, but we were persistent at that time to let's keep continually working on this project, a little bit here, a little bit there. Now this fall, I want to be out there with the giant pair of scissors when this thing's done. I mean, it's been 10 years. And I go out there a lot and look around, and I'm thrilled that we're finally getting close. And then the last piece that I'd bring up is the break wall, or what are we going to do about the erosion. I know we're at a high level as far as water now, and you had pictures, and then I've got some older ones too where you can actually almost walk out in that break wall area for erosion. I don't know what, I know it's very costly to look at armor stone, but
Yeah,
maybe that could be like the last little piece, we could figure that out.
Yeah, through Commission President to Mr. Waddington, I've had a contractor out there with me, and to do the improvements, we've looked at both building the break wall up and possibly tearing it down for boater safety. And the price range for that was in the $500,000. So those costs, and the thought about tearing it down, one of the people that Mr. Lincoln I had spoken to with ODNR thought that that was just a pier. He said that he felt that it was a pier that stopped, that was used just for walkways, maybe boats, things like that. But then when I talked to one of the contractors, he pointed out with the nor'easter, Lions Park is pretty much directly in line with the opening between the chaussee. So any of the wind that would come in would push the waves right up against that bank, and that's why he felt that it was a break wall. So there is a bit of a dialogue that we have going on what it is. Regardless, he recommended that we do not tear it down, but instead, if we did anything, we would build it up, and that, unfortunately, that was the more expensive of the, and anything that we would do would require Army Corps of Engineers, ODNR submerged land leases, so all those things would take several years to even get moving on, besides the cost of actually doing the work.
Mr. Chairman. Well, just in closing, the park looks great. I'm glad we got the splash pad out there on the west end of town, and we'll just keep pegging along. I think, right now it's, safe. As I see it, the parking issue, the speeding, I don't know about that. I guess that would be the police chief, maybe we could answer for him what to do there. But overall, I'm thrilled. I'm just glad it's finally. Appreciate it. Thanks.
Yes.
Additional comments or questions?
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Brady?
Mr. Klein, I think you've attacked this just exactly right. This is how you eat an elephant, one bite at a time. And, 10 years ago when we started this, it would have been unthinkable. It would have been unthinkable to take on a project and pour the kind of money that we poured into it now. This has given us a terrific asset, not just for the city, but specifically for the West Siders. And it's something we're going to enjoy, for the next 50 years. I couldn't be more pleased with how it's rolled out and the amenities that you've given us. Sometimes even you appreciate things when they come in smaller pieces. And I think the city, and I know I personally will appreciate it the way you've gotten it accomplished for us. Thanks.
Through you, Mr. President, I would like to point out that community development over the years has implemented several of the projects, and same with public services as far as playgrounds and splash pads and those things. So it is a group effort amongst various departments. So.
Additional questions or comments? I just wanted to, I think it's fitting that we're looking at this and kind of mostly wrapping this up after 10 long years, because we're entering a really great phase in the city's history where we have the ability to go out and do more of these long-term plans. And it's important to plan these parks because we need that expertise from folks out. We've got a lot of great folks on staff, no question about it. But we need that expertise from outside folks who have looked at dozens or hundreds of projects, really, and have all that additional knowledge to bring to bear. And then I think at the same time, we put together a master plan 10 years ago, and you and your staff studied that, and you sort of value engineered it, if you will. Not only so you made it less costly, but you made it safer and you made it better. So, I mean, we need to have a master plan, but then as we execute on that over an extended period of time, we need to remain sufficiently flexible that we can take advantage of those improvements that come to the surface.
Mr. Chairman,
Cool.
good job, as always, very detailed, and you put a lot of time into this. Are the shelters, are they the existing shelters? Are we upgrading, or are they new? I'm looking at your picture, so many things I can't tell for sure. Are those
Through you, Mr. President, if you look at the proposed plan, the one that, those two big kind
Yes.
of rectangular ones,
Yep.
those are existing.
Are we doing anything to improve them, make them better?
I would,
Perhaps put a ceiling in it so the birds aren't sitting up in the
as part of
rafters?
this project, I would say no, but I
Okay.
would defer to Mr. Link if something.
Through you, Commissioner President, Commissioner Poole, we have added chicken wire in there to keep the birds from nesting in there, and also added some boards but we didn't want to do all boards because then that promotes bees from nesting in there. Damned if you do, damned if you don't, I suppose.
Okay.
And then, other than that, we've added a roof, is a metal roof now, I believe.
Okay. One other question. Will the park, when it's ultimately done, will it be the only restrooms, the ones on the west end? Are there restrooms involved here or no? Down the road?
So, Mr. President, as part of this project, no.
Additional questions or comments? If not, then Mrs. Cresser, would you poll the commissioners on the motion, please?
Ms. Twine?
Yes.
Mr. Poole?
Yes.
Mr. Waddington?
Yes.
Mr. Murray?
Yes.
Ms. Lloyd?
Yes.
Mr. Lockhart?
Yes.
Mr. Brady?
Yes.
And now on the resolution?
Ms. Twine?
Yes.
Mr. Poole?
Yes.
Mr. Waddington?
Yes.
Mr. Murray?
Yes.
Ms. Lloyd?
Yes.
Mr. Lockhart?
Yes.
Mr. Brady?
Yes.
That resolution is adopted. Item number 5, please.
Item number 5 is an ordinance authorizing and directing the city manager to enter into an amendment to the agreement for services of consultant John A. Fike for calendar year 2017, and declaring that this ordinance shall take immediate effect in accordance with section 14 of the city charter.
Commissioners, having heard this communication, how do you wish to proceed?
Mr. Chairman,
Ms. Lloyd?
I move for the adoption of this ordinance under the suspension of the rules and in full accordance with section 14 of the city charter.
Second.
A motion and second. Discussion. Cresser, would you poll the commissioners on the motion, please?
Ms. Twine?
Yes.
Mr. Poole?
Yes.
Mr. Waddington? Mr. Murray?
Yes.
Ms. Lloyd?
Yes.
Mr. Lockhart?
Yes.
Mr. Brady?
Yes.
And now on the ordinance?
Ms. Twine?
Yes.
Mr. Poole?
Yes.
Mr. Waddington?
Yes.
Mr. Murray?
Yes.
Ms. Lloyd?
Yes.
Mr. Lockhart?
Yes.
Mr. Brady?
Yes.
That ordinance is adopted. Item number 6, please.
Item number 6 is a resolution declaring the necessity for the city to proceed with the proposed demolition and asbestos abatement of the former American Crayon Facility project, and directing the city manager to advertise for and receive bids in relation thereto, and declaring that this resolution shall take immediate effect in accordance with section 14 of the city charter.
Commissioners, having heard this communication, how do you wish to proceed?
Mr. Chairman,
Ms. Twine?
I move for the adoption of this resolution under the suspension of the rules in full accordance with section 14 of the city charter.
Second.
Been a motion and second. Discussion.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Waddington?
I called the city manager Saturday, and maybe I could have him explain a little bit better. I had a couple of residents, one called, and then one, I met at the house owners asked me about, I guess there was some openings in the fence, and they thought that we already took possession of the property, and I assured them that we're not in there yet, that we have, the current owner has not vacated yet, and I guess he was taking some stuff out of there, and they questioned, they thought we had it already, and I told you that.
Yep. Through the commission president to Commissioner Waddington and Director Lasko, feel free to jump in or correct any misstatements, but our current agreement with the existing property owner is such that he has permission to continue to occupy the site. He is still the owner of the site and can ultimately continue to salvage and has the responsibility for maintenance of the site up and until if or when we do close on the property. Matt, I don't know if you want to add anything to that.
I would just add some additional items. As the city manager mentioned, we did enter into an agreement on March 5th, which provided the city with 120 days due diligence to do everything from a Phase 1 environmental, a Phase 2 environmental, asbestos survey, and then ultimately bid out the cost of the demolition so the city and the taxpayers would know what the cost of the demolition would be prior to our purchase. We have since completed the Phase 1. We've done the asbestos survey. We've collected soil and groundwater samplings. We're just waiting on the results of those, which we hope to have in a couple weeks. Then ultimately determine a cost of demolition by the end of June, as our due diligence is up the first week of July. So we ultimately look to have sort of our ducks in a row and understand what's on site, what the liability may be, if any, and then what the cost of demo would be. Again, to the city manager's point, it is still privately owned. Per the agreement, the owner is still able to demolish and salvage from the site in the interim.
Thank you. Further questions or comments regarding the legislation?
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Brady?
Mr. Lesko, I can't imagine, at the rate that this demolition person has been removing things, I can't imagine that having a large negative impact on our $150,000 purchase price, can you?
Through the commission president to Commissioner Brady. The good news is there was a very large building, which is sort of down to the first story. So we're hopeful that That actually reduced some of our demolition expense quite a bit. We don't know if that's reduced the demolition expense by $150,000. One of the important things to mention is when we bid this out about a year and a half ago, very few, if any, of the demolition contractors were putting any value in salvage material. So the fact that the owner has been there salvaging, we don't think negatively impacts the city very much. But we're hopeful that between the cost of what's been demolished versus the purchase price, those will come close to offsetting. But it's important for us to get the demolition cost to verify that before we would actually be on the hook for the demolition upon purchase.
Thank you.
No questions or comments? Mr. Cresser, would you poll the commissioners on the motion, please?
Ms. Twine?
Yes.
Mr. Poole?
Yes.
Mr. Waddington?
Yes.
Mr. Murray?
Yes.
Ms. Lloyd?
Yes.
Mr. Lockhart?
Yes.
Mr. Brady?
Yes.
And now on the resolution?
Ms. Twine?
Yes.
Mr. Poole?
Yes.
Mr. Waddington?
Yes.
Mr. Murray?
Yes.
Ms. Lloyd?
Yes.
Mr. Lockhart?
Yes.
Mr. Brady?
Yes.
That resolution is adopted. Item number 7, please.
Item number 7 is an ordinance authorizing and directing the city manager to enter into a vehicle lease agreement with First Transit Incorporated of Cincinnati, Ohio, for the purchase of leasing 2 2007 Eldorado national buses for the Sandusky transit system, and declaring that this ordinance shall take immediate effect in accordance with Section 14 of the city charter.
Commissioners, having heard this communication, how do you wish to proceed?
Mr. Chairman,
Ms. Lloyd?
I move for the adoption of this ordinance under the suspension of the rules and in full accordance with Section 14 of the city charter.
Second.
There's been a motion and second. Discussion? Ms. Byington, why don't you walk us and the public through what we're undertaking?
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the commission. We're requesting approval to enter into a lease agreement with First Transit Incorporated, who is our transit provider, to utilize 2 2007 Eldorado national buses. On April 1st, our transit provider switched to First Transit, and at that time it was determined that our 3 large Spark buses needed to be taken out of service. As such, we've been working with ODOT to replace the buses. We looked at decommissioned buses from Cleveland RTA and Middletown, and it was determined that those buses would be extremely costly to bring up to an acceptable service standard. In addition, we don't know what the service costs associated with the older buses would be. We're requesting permission to enter into a contract with First Transit for use of the 2 buses with a monthly rent of $1,500 a bus for the first year and $1,400 a bus for the second year. There will be an early termination fee if the city were to terminate within the first 6 months. The communication stated that that fee would be $1,500, and it actually will be $3,000 if the city were to decide to move forward with terminating early. The buses will be coming from Texas, and the city is currently negotiating the transfer cost of those buses. The total cost for a 24-month lease for 2 buses will be $69,600 to be paid with rural grant funds received by FTA through ODOT. It's requested that this ordinance be passed under Section 14 of the city charter to allow the buses to enter into regular service as soon as possible, as they are our Spark buses, our fixed route. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Byington. Commissioners, questions or comments? Mrs. Cresser, would you poll the commissioners on the motion, please?
Ms. Twine?
Yes.
Mr. Poole?
Yes.
Mr. Waddington?
Yes.
Mr. Murray?
Yes.
Ms. Lloyd?
Yes.
Mr. Lockhart?
Yes.
Mr. Brady?
Ordinance?
Ms. Twine?
Yes.
Mr. Poole?
Yes.
Mr. Waddington?
Yes.
Mr. Murray?
Yes.
Ms. Lloyd?
Yes.
Mr. Lockhart?
Yes.
Mr. Brady?
Yes. That ordinance is adopted. The last item, please, Mrs. Cresser, number 8.
Item 8 is an ordinance authorizing and directing the city manager to enter into an amendment to the cooperative agreement between the city of Sandusky and the Trust for Public Land for professional services for the Sandusky Downtown East Bay Plan, and declaring that this ordinance shall take immediate effect in accordance with Section 14 of the city charter.
Commissioners, having heard this communication, how do you wish to proceed?
Mr. Chairman,
Ms. Twine?
I move for the adoption of this ordinance under the suspension of the rules in full accordance with Section 14 of the city charter.
Second.
On a motion, second, discussion. Ms. Byington, could you walk us through the, just to briefly, what the nature of the change is? You're increasing the amount of public input, as I understand from the communication, and that has to do with some additional costs.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the commission. Yes, we're requesting that the cooperative agreement between the Trust for Public Land and the city be amended to increase the project cost by $9,500. That will bring it to a total cost of $99,744. The purpose of the amendment is to allow for additional public process by the subcontracted design firm. The city entered into original agreement to work with the Trust for Public Land to create the downtown Sandusky East Bay Plan, which generally includes Battery Park, the prior Sandusky Bay Pavilion, and City Hall properties. As part of the planning process, the Trust for Public Land has hired Smith Group JJR to assist with the design component of the parks, public improvements, overall plan development, and budget assessments and recommended phasing. The original project budget of $90,244 was to be split 50% paid by grant funds and 50% by local foundations. So with the original project, the city was not putting any money into the plan itself. The additional $9,500 is being proposed to be paid with Battery Park TIF funds. So this would be the first portion of funds for the project taken from the city. To Ms. Johnson's questions, the money will not be used for market studies. The money, as I stated, is for additional public process. The design firm that they hired thought it needed to be beefed up a little bit, so they are adding one more additional day-long session for public input, and then the other public workshops are, again, being beefed up, the scope of them as well. So the Trust for Public Land put out for a design firm. They entered into contract with the Smith Group JJR. The additional cost will be $9,500. And also, to Ms. Johnson's question, the deadline is June 30th. The Trust for Public Land is the organization that was granted the grant from ODNR, and they received an extension till June 30th. So we're requesting that this ordinance be passed under Section 14 to allow us to move forward and meet the deadline that ODNR has for this project of June 30th.
Thank you, Ms. Byington.
You're welcome.
Questions or comments?
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Poole.
what is a more in-depth site analysis framework? I caught the community forum stuff that you focused on there, but what's the first part of that?
So when I spoke with the Trust for Public Land, they were specific that the increase itself was in regard to the public input being expanded, but you were probably looking at the proposal from, are you looking at the Trust for Public Land or Smith Group JJR specifically?
I'm looking at the documentation you sent, it's page 05. Let me go back so I can get to the top of it. It's a letter from Eric Wipser from Angela Byington, written April 25th, 2017. That says, TPL subcontracted with Smith Group, et cetera, proposed additional public participation includes expansion of the following items.
So the
More in-depth site analysis framework. That's the first bullet item, and community forum.
Okay. One moment, please. You should also have an attachment that details that out.
Okay.
That's 2.1 and 2.2. So task 2.1 and 2.2 are the sections that you're referring to from the Smith Group JJR proposal. So the site analysis framework states that Smith Group JJR team will conduct a thorough site analysis of the project area to study and understand the influences, constraints, and opportunities that could impact future redevelopment efforts, utilizing all available resources, including field observations, previous stakeholder and community feedback, past studies and research. The exercise will yield a site analysis framework to guide future decisions and redevelopment within the project area. In addition to the physical characteristics of the site catalog in the existing conditions plan, topography, site features, vegetation, boundaries, utilities, etc., the site analysis framework will synthesize policy information, public opinion, and other important factors influencing the waterfront plan: land use, vehicular circulation and parking, non-motorized connectivity, community context, etc.
Mr. Chairman, could you break that down into, like, what are we getting different? I don't understand what you're doing differently that wasn't planned on when we put out the first $90,000. What's the change? Those are nice words. What are we gaining?
So
Condensed into
through you,
the
Mr.
gainings.
President, the Trust for Public Land did an initial site analysis, but it was not to the extent that Smith Group JJR will be doing. So I don't believe that to date, Trust for Public Land has looked into the exact topography, the existing utilities, any existing lease agreements that are here. Those kind of issues still need to be be taken care of, and Smith Group JJR will be doing that.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Additional questions or comments?
Mr. Chairman,
Ms. Lloyd?
I just wanted to thank Ms. Byington for bringing this to us. Since this is less than $10,000, I'm sure they would have been able to find a way to get around it. So thank you for transparency and letting the public know.
You're welcome.
Additional questions or comments?
Wish we would have found a way around
Ms. Cresser, would you poll the commissioners on the motion, please?
Ms. Twine?
Yes.
Mr. Poole?
Yes.
Mr. Waddington?
Yes.
Mr. Murray?
Yes.
Ms. Lloyd?
Yes.
Mr. Lockhart?
Yes.
Mr. Brady?
Yes.
And now on the ordinance.
Ms. Twine?
Yes.
Mr. Poole?
Yes.
Mr. Waddington?
Yes.
Mr. Murray?
Yes.
Ms. Lloyd?
Yes.
Mr. Lockhart?
Yes.
Mr. Brady?
Yes.
That ordinance is adopted, and we turn now to Mr. Wobser for the city manager's report.
Thank you, Commission President, Commissioners, audience, and staff. I will start with the donations this evening. First, a donation of $50 for the K-9 Fund was received from Phyllis Wassner. I'd ask for a motion to accept that donation.
So moved.
Been a motion, second discussion. Is there a second?
Yeah.
Okay. Without objection, the motion be approved. Hearing no objection, the motion is approved with our thanks to our colleague from Huron.
Wonderful. Also, a donation of $500 in kind from Dick and Debbie Brady, oh, actually not in kind, because I apologize, for the purchase of a stamped engineered drawing for the new AmVets baseball scoreboard. I'd like to give a thank you to Mr. and Mrs. Brady and ask for a motion to approve that donation.
So moved.
Second.
Been a motion and second discussion. Without objection, the motion will be approved. Hearing no objection, the motion is approved with our thanks to Mrs. Brady. Her husband writes the check.
For money.
Moving on to new and old business. Commissioner Waddington brought this up, and I thought it was a good suggestion. My mother is a big bird watcher, and she had actually commented on Saturday. She came back from Big Island, and how amazing it was with so many people down there and what was a cold but sunny day. And not a few hours later did Commissioner Waddington call and say, hey, we need to really make sure we promote this biggest week in American birding, because it is the biggest week in American birding, and it's happening right here in Sandusky as well as other parts of the state. So we just wanted to give a shout out to that and say that not only did it start this past weekend, but it goes through this weekend through May 14th. And it's celebrating the peak of spring migration in the Lake Erie Marsh region in northwest Ohio, which includes Sandusky. And not only is that really cool environmentally, or for those who recreationally like to watch birds, but you can feel the economic impact of birders, who tend to be a very well-to-do group and well-educated group, and they're coming here and not only seeing the great birds, but spending their time and their resources and hopefully planning their next trip back to the area. So thank you for that suggestion, and everyone get out there to the number of spots, including Big Island, where you can check out the birds in Sandusky. Moving on to the police, the new K-9 SUV was revealed on May 3rd. I know many of the commissioners were able to attend that. We just want to give a hearty thank you to all that were involved in the process to bring this legacy cruiser to reality. I want to give a special thanks to Chief Orzek and the Dunn family, and Troy in Brad's shop, who worked really hard on this project. And you could feel the emotion, not only there, but for all of those working up to it that were part of it. So thank you. Finance Department, just to let you know, the auditors will return later this month for additional testing on the 2016 financial audit. And the next scheduled Finance Committee meeting is Friday, June 23rd at 7:45 a.m. in the Commission Chambers. Again, that's Friday, June 23rd, starting in this room at 7:45 a.m. Moving on to Public Works, over the past year, the manufacturer performed maintenance on the centrifuge at the wastewater treatment plant, but found that additional parts needed replaced exceeding $10,000. If one of the components were to fail, the centrifuge would be out of service for 6 to 8 months. So staff is requesting a motion to approve to proceed with the emergency work as required to keep the machine operational for a total cost of $19,832.60, paid for out of sewer funds. We will come back for formal approval at the May 22nd meeting, but I'd like to ask for a motion to approve us doing that emergency work. Thank you.
Second.
Been a motion, second discussion. Ms. Cresser, would you poll the commissioners on the motion, please?
Ms. Twine?
Yes.
Mr. Poole?
Yes.
Mr. Waddington? Mr. Murray?
Yes.
Ms. Lloyd?
Yes.
Mr. Lockhart?
Yes.
Mr. Brady?
Yes.
That motion is approved.
Thank you, Commissioners. Also, the Water Distribution Division will commence flushing fire hydrants within the city Monday, May 8th through Friday, June 16th. Periodic flushing of water mains is required to ensure high-quality, palatable water. More information can be found on the city's website. The city has released an RFQ for professional planning and design firms to submit qualifications for the West Side Utility and Connectivity Improvements Project by May 19th, 2017. This project consists of 3 components, which are replacement of a problematic water main on Venice Road between Edgewater and Cold Creek, replacement and installation of storm sewers between Huron Road and Cold Creek, and walkability connectivity along Venice Road from Tiffin to the, what is the name of it, Fremont, I believe, as well as a connector to Lions Park from there. And if you remember, that is a part of our comprehensive plan that we recommended bringing more walkability to the west side. We have a lot of assets out there, from schools to neighborhoods to Tofts to Lions Park, and a lot of nonprofits and social services. This will be an opportunity, and again, made more efficient by the fact that we're already doing water and sewer work to begin those improvements. And in addition to that, it was a recommendation for an anchor project for our upcoming Sandusky Neighborhood Initiative, which we're finalizing the plans for now. So we're excited for that project. Moving on, the wastewater treatment plant employees were trained by an instructor from Bellingham Technical College in Washington State. The training demonstrated how to increase efficiency of the digesters, which will increase production of methane gas, currently being used to operate the plant and offset electrical consumption. This training was unique in that staff not only earned required continuing education credits, but also earned college-level credits. So that's a really wonderful opportunity for us to gain experience and to continue their education. Also, a public service reminder, testing of drinking water for lead levels is performed annually by the city water department as required by the Ohio EPA. Results have never exceeded minimum acceptable levels. However, the city plans to add a simple public service announcement to the water and sewer bill in May stating, friendly tip, run your faucet for 30 to 120 seconds prior to use. For more info, please call 419-627-5815. And that was due to the fact that, our pipes are certainly safe, as are most of the pipes leading from our lines to the houses. But because we're an older city, it always makes sense to remove sediment, et cetera, to run the water for a little bit before drinking. So that's a periodic reminder. We want to thank Commissioner Waddington for bringing that to our attention. One of the things he also mentioned is that some of the folks that may be potentially at risk that wouldn't receive a water bill are those who are renters. And so Director Lasko is going to work and use with Amanda from the Code Enforcement Division to make sure that we also notify via mail those who are on those properties that are on our rental registration list. So they'll receive an actual public service announcement to their house, just as a reminder, again, to run the water for a period of time of 30 to 120 seconds before drinking.
Mr. Waddington.
I'd like to say thank you. This came up in a concern with Mr. Brady and I over coffee at the commission, and that was a concern of mine. How do we relay this out? And a renter, most of landlords pay the water and sewer bill, so they would have no way of knowing this. Yep. So that postcard idea letter is good, and thank you for that.
Thank you, Commissioner. Moving on to community development, as the Code Enforcement Division has been enforcing the 24-hour curbside placement ordinance, it's been found that solid waste haulers are not following the curbside collection zone map as set forth in section 955.12 of the codified ordinances. All licensed solid waste haulers will be given a 30-day notice that the zone map will begin to be enforced. These are planned to be distributed this week. On a first violation, a warning will be given, and any subsequent violations will result in penalties pursuant to section 955.99B of the codified ordinances of the city of Sandusky. Also, housing development and beautification, as of May 2nd, approximately $180,000 of the $300,000, or over 60% of the annual funding allowance is committed for 2017, with another 40 applications still being reviewed. Applications are accepted on a rolling basis, and funds will be committed on a first-come, first-served basis. Applications for the city's housing programs are available on the city's website. The regular Planning Commission meeting will be held Wednesday, May 24th at 4:30 p.m. in the first floor conference room. And the regular Board of Zoning Appeals meeting is scheduled for May 18th at 4:30 p.m. in the first floor conference room. Also, there will be a public meeting regarding the East Bay plan that Director Byington was speaking to during legislation. That public meeting for the East Bay plan will take place on Thursday, May 18th from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. at the Central Fire Station in downtown Sandusky. Moving on to public services, drive-through dump day collected an estimated 40 tons of material. Thank you to all who volunteered their time in the wind and rain. A special thank you to Sandusky Steel, Barnes Nursery, Cyclone Services, Goodwill Industries, Ohio Tire Terminal, All Shred and Interstate Battery. I had a chance to stop down very briefly with my little guy, and I just want to give a huge thank you to Director Link and all those who helped organize, and several of our commissioners were there volunteering. It was a cold and rainy day, so thanks to all of you who volunteered, and the lines were maybe a mile down the street at one point, so we know it is an absolutely critical service and seems to continue to grow each year as we do it, which means we're getting a lot of junk out of people's houses or yards, so thank you. Arbor Day, Earth Day at the greenhouse had over 130 people in attendance and received over $700 in donations to the Friends of the Greenhouse. The money will help to fund future events and projects that are ongoing at the greenhouse and parks throughout the city. And once again, I just want to give a big thank you to Director Link, to Tom Spear from the greenhouse, Victoria and Jason from the Recreation Department who helped to organize that, the staff of the greenhouse. I saw, I think, almost every commissioner at one time or another at that event. And it's something the public really loves, and it really opens up one of those gems of the city, which is the greenhouse. It's historic, it's green, and it's really beautiful. So it was great. And then finally, actually, I'm not doing the last one today because we need a little more information. So we'll be coming back to you in the future regarding the Martin Luther King bust at Washington Freedom Park. So with that, that concludes my remarks for this evening. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Commissioner, any questions for the city manager? The items of new business.
I got multiple. The first one is Trevor and our law department, Justin. I asked maybe like a month ago, and I went through Eric, and I had a conversation with you, Mr. Murray, about local drone legislation. And I want to ask for a motion to ask city law department to develop legislation for the city of Sandusky. Other cities that have done it is Broadview Heights, Aurora, Bedford, Cuyahoga Heights, North Burlington. There's several cities that I've got the documentation. They have similar ordinances which prohibit drones from flying over public parks, schools, school property, municipal buildings, public utilities, and also ban flying drones over public or private property for the purpose of watching someone or taking pictures or video persons on said property. So I would like to have something, if we could do something locally, and then also contact Cedar Point. I know FAA's got a large, as far as the state of Ohio, they got a large hand in, this, doing this, but there's a state law right now that I've been following. It's in the General Assembly 138, House Bill 218. It's in the House Transportation Infrastructure. No real action right now. So they're not doing anything right now, but I'd like to have something we could bring back, because I think it's gonna pick up. We're gonna see more and more of them now. Having this for toys, but as far as the privacy issue over our water plant or sewer plants and that, you can put cameras on them and, just throwing that out.
There's a motion, right? It's a motion?
Yeah.
Your second?
Second.
Motion and second. Discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? I think there were 4 votes. Okay. Any other, Mr. Waddington, you had several.
Yeah, I got one more. After Saturday's litter cleanup at MacArthur Park, I had the mayor and vice mayor worked with me. I drove around Sandusky and the thought occurred to me, if every resident, and I told Dennis earlier today, I drove around even in the nicer neighborhoods, and we've got pop cans, pop bottles, and trash pretty much all over Sandusky. If every resident that's able-bodied would pick one piece of paper, one can, just something, I don't care what it is, piece of litter, once a week for a month, I think it would have a big impact. But I don't know, how do you reach out? And you certainly saw the mess we got at MacArthur Park. You got pictures of Mr. Brady. You had to get we left there and that was bad. I mean, it's just,
Yeah, I mean, we have residents who don't have trash service, and so the trash piles up, it piles up, piles up. And I can't remember, we've had this conversation before, Mr. Waddington, but I don't remember. I don't recall that landlords are required to provide proof that they have a pickup, but I know that we do have ordinances that require, I mean, just so that maybe this is just a good public service update. We do have ordinances on the books that require every resident and every tenant to have, through the landlord, to have trash pickup. It's not an option. You can't just not have trash service. You have to have it, otherwise you're just pushing it off on somebody else. And to Mr. Waddington's point, we saw one property, at least, I mean, we were at several properties.
You
but
got
there was-
pictures of it, I mean, you gotta show that, but,
I don't know, what, they have 100 bags of trash? in the
Oh,
back?
up against the back door, I mean,
They've
it's
been
just.
accumulating for a long, long period of time, so.
Mr.
We
Chairman.
gave that to code. We gave that
Increase
to
the
code.
fine, I guess, if
Yeah.
we could do that.
Yeah.
Increase the fine.
Mr. Chairman, I wonder if our fire chief could speak for just a moment, and I'm not typically going to give you a hardball question. Hopefully, this will be a softball for you. But while we were walking through MacArthur Park, it occurred to me that those streets are very narrow and very quick turns. If you had to fight a fire out there, what kind of a piece of equipment would you take? A pickup truck? I can't imagine
No,
a real truck being able to.
the engines make it through there.
Engines can get through there.
They can get through there, and we've, over the years since I've been here, we've had several fires back in there. But they can get everywhere they need to go back there.
Okay.
Sometimes you only have to go slower than other times because of the cars parked on either side of the street, but they make it back there.
We own, I know the city owns a considerable number of lots back there. Is there, Mr. Woods, I guess the question for Mr. Webster, is there a plan for us to buy more or?
Through the commission president to Commission Vice President Murray, we're very actively working in the Churchwell and MacArthur Park and Southside neighborhoods. I was communicating with Director Lasko late last week, early this week, regarding, we've done, I think, 10 to 13 demolitions in that area. Others are under contract. We continue to do a lot of code enforcement in the area. But I think just as importantly, to your point of having a plan, it is one of the areas, the 6 designated neighborhoods to receive increased investment per the Sandusky Neighborhood Initiative, which we hope to get back in front of this commission in June. That will include increased resources dedicated to housing and fighting blight, as well as for infrastructure, including the renovation of the park. And we see that as an opportunity. We see that neighborhood as an important opportunity because one of the anchors, not in addition to the park itself, is the fact that the Sandusky City Schools are going to be building a new 3 through 6 elementary school not too far from that neighborhood. And so ultimately, we know that 3rd graders through 12th graders are going to be going to school daily, which is about 75% of the school's population, in a walking distance of that neighborhood. And so we see it getting a new start. We do think that a lot of that housing is substandard. And so rather than really pushing for the rehabilitation of those homes, we think over time, strategically, as they become more dilapidated or as we're able to get site control, the opportunity to take them down and to rebuild more family-friendly housing. But the master plan for the park itself will have a housing component for this neighborhood, in large part because of all the land that we control, as well as the fact that we think this is a unique, of all the parks that we're planning, the only one that has a housing component adjacent to that we'd actually look to maybe some outside help to figure out how to do it, is that because of the unique circumstances that you see in that neighborhood. So.
Yeah, my wife, we were talking about it after I was talking with my wife after the pickup on Saturday, and the Sandusky Library has some really cool history posted about that neighborhood. And it was built just before, about the dawn of World War II, as temporary housing for folks working at the munitions plant. And it was not intended to be long-term housing. And they just had a great need at the time. So.
And just building on that through the commission president, a great number of the housing we store into this in Cleveland, public housing and other larger developments like MacArthur Park, from when I was in Cleveland to here, were built to support temporary workforce housing in the 30s, 40s, 50s, and 60s. And ultimately, many, many cities continue to live with that housing today as it's continued to decline. And fortunately, we don't have as much of that here, but that neighborhood is certainly an important example and ultimately probably not built for more generations than it's already taken on. So.
Additional items, I did it backwards, so we're on new business. Additional items of new business.
Mr. Chairman.
Cool.
I'd like to revisit for a moment and just get a feel from the commission about the fishing at the marina. I realize that we took the signs down and which left it kind of open for interpretation, and I'd like to see if my interpretation of what we expected to occur concurs with the rest of the commission, which is essentially, I start with the fact that we build a multi-million-dollar marina for the purpose of providing space for people to come in and dock and supplement and spend downtown. The fact that it is public land, we also recognize that there are opportunities that we can, for people to fish in certain portions of that. As long as but I'd like to think that the thinking is it can't conflict with and create problems for what the intent of the marina is, which is for people to dock their boats and come in. So is it reasonable to expect that there's no fishing from the docks? Correct? Was that not what we intended, even though it is not signed currently? Apparently, some folks don't take that for granted. And so perhaps we need to put some signs up that, at the end of the docks that say that clearly. And likewise, we really didn't do any particular study about how unsafe it is in other locations in the marina. And perhaps as time goes on through the summer, we may find that we have to revisit this and restrict fishing in certain parts of the marina. And I just wanted to say that to the public. The concept of fishing in our marina and leaving your dead fish lay around, fish hooks on the sidewalk that people can hurt themselves on, are things that I think would be, I would consider reasons to say that you're not complying with the intent of what we're doing down there, and we might have to restrict additionally fishing in the marina in certain locations. So I just put that for discussion. If anybody agrees, disagrees.
Mr. Brady.
Mr. Poole, thank you for bringing up that issue. I had a conversation with our marina operator during our dump day activities regarding the very same issue. And I don't think that his request is unreasonable. He pointed out to me quite clearly that since the inception of the marina, the city has had certain rules and regulations. And in those rules and regulations are, number 8 is no swimming or fishing in the marina. So I don't think we're really departing or being inconsistent with what we've been doing since the marina was built. He had developed a very simplistic set of graphics to go on 3 or 4 signs at that location that would limit the fishing to the outer wall of the marina, which essentially keeps people from fishing on the docks, and it keeps people from fishing on the concrete walkways. Those walkways are used, as we all know, to get to the docks, and they're used to get to the food facility there that's operated by the Avalons. In the south stretch of sidewalk that goes east to west might seem less harmful to fish off of, but as he pointed out to me, that sidewalk is getting a lot of traffic, thank goodness, from the Chesapeake Lofts people who lease boat docks and jet skis. So they're using that as a pedestrian walkway. And imagine kind of walking through fishing lines and people fishing in that location. I think, Commissioner Poole, what you're saying is we are being consistent by, perhaps we are being consistent with doing some type of signage that would simply limit the fishing to the outside, to people fishing on the outside wall. I would like to hear further discussion on that, but I would also like to make a motion that the city provides 4 signs with that limited graphics on it to limit that type of situation there.
Second.
There's been a motion and second discussion.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Poole.
Mr. Brady, would you consider an amendment to what you said? We've yet to establish that, other than perhaps the sidewalk that leads out to where the diner is out on the end, we're yet to establish that it's unsafe to fish on the other sidewalk. And consider, let's limit this to the docks to begin with, and allow the marina manager, the docks and the sidewalk leading out, running north and south, and allow let the system work itself out. If it becomes a problem, then we limit it otherwise. I mean, I won't, if you don't want the amendment, I can go either way, but I recognize that if the public has been fishing on that south dock, they're no closer to people walking by than they are on any pier behind the city building. Just a big boardwalk, and people fish off those piers all the time. People walk down the sidewalk along Shoreline Drive, and we fish at the foot of Wayne Street. So it's not automatically just unsafe to say it is.
Excuse me, Mr. Paul, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Yes,
I'll
sir.
take that as a motion to amend.
It's a motion to amend that we just begin with
Is there a second?
docks.
Second.
Then a motion second. So the issue on the table is whether we should amend the original motion. Discussion on that point.
Mr. Chairman,
Ms. Lloyd.
with all the piers that are all over our coastline, I think it's perfectly reasonable to have no fishing in the marina, but allow fishing outside of the marina. So I would rather not amend the motion.
Further- Ms. Poole. I mean, Ms. Twine.
Pool.
Sorry.
What's the
Over here to
initial,
right.
what's the initial concern that the marina operator was determining whether there would be fishing or not there? How did we get to this point? I guess I'm thinking that the marina operator would, since they're there, would be the one to determine whether, when and where fishing should take place.
Mr. Wobser.
Through the commission president to Commissioner Twine, we have had, most recently with the new operator, Lake Erie Towing, they reached out to us and said they were concerned with the fishing in the pier being a potential nuisance or danger to those who were boating in the area. But what Victoria told me is that for every year that the marina's been open, this has been a concern raised by either the city employees or the marina management, which for a time was Mr. Avalone and Mrs. Avalone, that they had issues as well for the same reasons. We asked Mr. Kennedy of Lake Erie Towing we said, well, we're willing to work with you. And then ultimately, he put up the signs that led to some of these conversations. But to Commissioner Brady's point, it is always as a rule, I guess, been that no swimming or fishing is permitted inside of the marina. And so staff doesn't have a strong opinion on this, but that is how this conversation rose to the forefront. It was brought by Lake Erie Towing, although it is not a new concern raised by management at the marina. It's been an ongoing issue annually around this time of year, every year.
Further discussion on the motion to amend.
Mr. Chairman,
Lockhart.
the area that we're discussing is inside the marina, but Mr. Brady, do you have any opposition to people fishing on the outside wall or areas that would not affect the boaters, let's say?
Mr. Chairman, I have no objection to people fishing on the outside wall. I believe that fishing should be in the bay, though. I don't believe it should be in the basin. And I do strongly want to stress that my concern for posting the signs on the east-west walkway, the south portion of the marina, is strictly for safety reasons. You have people traveling that, I've seen myself people traveling that without shoes on. They're going to their boats, they're going to the jet ski docks that they are leasing from our vendor, and they are using that as a walkway. What I'm trying to prevent is exactly what I look at in a billboard at Cleveland Road, at Causeway Drive, and that is a fish hook stuck in some kid's mouth on his way to the urgent care center. And that's a very graphic design of what I'm referring to, the possibility of happening here. And I'm concerned about, some liability with that also. As I said, we have been consistent since that marina was built that we would not allow fishing or boating inside the basin. And I think that those kind of signs do that without denying anyone public access to a public waterway.
Additional discussion on the motion to amend.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, just one last thing. The marina's been open for 4 or 5 years, and the billboard on Cleveland Road, that just hasn't occurred. Just saying it's for safety reasons, when it's really without any evidence that there's any real safety concerns, that there's a real safety problem, is just unreasonable. And I really would like to avoid the battle we had before when an arbitrary decision was made to put up signs that said you can't fish here. it was never justified to put up signs without notice, without conversation, and nothing's yet has been provided other than Mr. Brady's concerns. There's no evidence that it's ever been an issue. Nor, like I said, every pier in town that we fish off of, including Jackson Street, has people walking on the sidewalk around it. To suggest that this marina is a problem is a whole different story. Now, if you were saying there wasn't any space, I could understand with experience if we found that people casting off of any one of those sidewalks around there was a legitimate problem, that they documented just anything at all. Nothing's been presented, other than just people saying, we don't want you down here. And that's really what this is what I'm more concerned about, and I don't think you should be allowed to do that with public property. There needs to be a reason.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Waddington.
Why don't we, what are we doing at Battery Park? Why don't we mimic that or
Thank you.
use that for a template? You can go out in the exterior wall and fish there, fish off the side, it's boxed in. Why don't we use that and run our, they have signage, correct?
So, yes.
Why don't we do something like that? They're tenants of the city of Sandusky, correct? And the big thing is, when that was built, you could go down there, you're lucky if you even saw a human being. And I was really concerned when I was on the commission then, nobody was down there. It's picked up. Now I think they were up to like 40, what did he tell us, 46, 48,000 as far as leasing this year. And I don't even know if that included the jet skis. And that restaurant is hot. That thing, that they do a great business down there. I have a concern with people coming and going and that too. Maybe even fishing. I think we should find designated areas where they can fish, but certainly not in the marina. The walkway goes, Mr. Brady, I believe, probably over an eighth of a mile on the deep water side. That's a walkway along there, and that goes out, jetties out to where you come in, the entry of it. Why can't we fish out there?
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Lockhart.
are you suggesting that we should find areas that they should fish in as opposed to the areas that they're fishing in now?
No, we need to build a.
No, I mean, so we should kind of do a little bit more research or explore it, is that what you mean? Make it mimic Battery Park or one of the other areas that we use?
I think we need to be consistent. I'll leave it at that, okay?
So
I'm sorry, I was gonna say, so it sounds like to me, we need to just do a little bit, maybe in the minuscule micro of research to figure out the best areas to put up signage that everybody agrees upon. So I would move in that direction.
Okay, so technically we have a motion to amend on the table, and we need to deal with that motion first, unless there's a motion to table.
I make a motion to table.
Second, let's take it.
Vote on the motion to table. Ms. Presser, would you call the roll, please?
Ms. Twine?
Yes.
Mr. Poole?
Yes.
Mr. Waddington?
Yes.
Mr. Murray?
I abstain.
Ms. Lloyd?
Yes.
Mr. Lockhart?
Yes.
Mr. Brady?
Yes.
That's tabled. And just for the record, I abstain on all things related to the transit marina.
Mr.
Oh,
Chairman?
Mr. Harris, excuse me.
Just because it's an issue that we brought up in our new business, I know we tabled it, just to answer Commissioner Poole's question and deciphering the difference between the pier versus the marina, is there's two type of invitees. There's business invitees and public invitees. The mere fact that someone is paying us or renting that land and inviting people to either A, go to the restaurant, or B, use our transient marina, we owe them a little bit more heightened duty than someone just walking by on Jackson Street Pier or behind City Hall, where it's open truly to the public. Again, it is still open to the public, transit marina, but I know that Mr. Brady had mentioned something about liability. I know we tabled it, and I'll bring it back, but as a city attorney, I would feel more comfortable not allowing fishing inside the marina and allowing fishing outside the marina. That's my concern.
Thank you, Mr. Harris. Additional items of new business. I have one. Week before last, the city was presented by the Chamber of Commerce with what's called the Senior Council Award. And the criteria is that it's presented to an individual or organization whose personal or professional achievements are exemplary and worthy of special recognition, but which may not fit within any of the above classifications of Lifetime Achievement Award, Entrepreneur Business Person of the Year, Business of the Year with the other awards given that night. And I was pleased to be there along with Commissioners Brady and Twine to accept the award on behalf of the city. And we were also joined by Mr. Whoopser and Ms. Cresser. That was all that we had there from the.
Mr. Waddington.
Oh, Mr. Waddington, oh, I'm sorry.
How did you miss me?
So forgettable. That's,
My usual.
You were there. And I was the one that got to accept on behalf of the city, just because I'm in the center seat, I guess. But I want to say the same thing in a very condensed form that I said that night. You know, there are a lot of folks who've asked, why is the city really on fire these days? Why are things going so well? And why is it so many other communities are now really sort of looking to what it is that we're doing? And, you know, I've thought about that a lot. And I don't know that there's any one answer. In fact, I know that there are a lot of answers. There are lots of important parts and pieces. But, you know, we've often heard it said that failure is an orphan and success has many parents. And its origin is a very cynical one, where we say nobody wants to have anything to do with failure. And sure, if there's something going well, everyone claims to be a parent, everyone claims to be a part of it. But it's really the exact opposite here. We have a lot of success going on because we have so many people in Sandusky and Erie County, in the State House and in the Governor's office. We have so many homeowners who are investing. We have so many entrepreneurs who are making investments in our city. And we just have a lot of people who are taking pride in their community and taking pride in the city, the county seat. So Sandusky does indeed have many parents these days, and we're a very proud child, and I was very glad to be able to accept that for the city. So it was a very nice nod in our direction. But don't let up, Mr. Whoopser, and everybody else.
Likewise to the commission. Yeah.
Other items of new business or old business? Then we will turn to public participation. Anyone wishing to address the commission on any city items, please give us your name and address and share with us your thoughts.
Sharon Johnson, 1139 Fifth Street. I was reading a document a couple days ago I'd like to bring up. The city says they state that they don't have a parking problem downtown. That may be so now, but when the development is in down there, you're going to have a huge parking problem. And this document I read was that the city was requesting parking spaces down in the county garage. They requested a few months ago 12 to 15 spaces for their city vehicles. And then just recently, they asked for 35 more spaces because, whoops, we forgot about the apartments downtown. They're going to be over the city hall. Again, I guess the county did research and they hold the title of the parking garage. I thought that maybe the city and the county shared in that, but the county claims they have the title. Then the document goes on to say that the city's going to do another downtown parking study. How many studies do we have to have down there? And I don't know how this project, the City Hall project, slipped by the Planning Commission on parking spaces. We wait until the City Hall is finalized, and then we have to look for parking spaces for them. I don't know how that happened, because every time there's a project, it comes before the Planning Commission, and they always ask, well, do you have parking for this project? I guess the county is still waiting to give an answer to the city, still out. So I don't understand that, how that was missed. Is this developer getting exceptions to the rule? Every time you turn around, they've got an exception to the rule. So what's going on with the parking study if we don't have a parking problem down there?
Anything else, Mrs. Cook?
I'm just asking, what's with another parking study?
There is no other parking study, but thank you for your comments.
No, there is. There is, Dennis. It's documented in the county documents.
Chairman?
Who's paying for that?
Obviously, I mean, this is news to me, but we've been told all along that we do not have parking issues. Are we or are we not engaged in discussions with the county to resolve a parking problem or issues, or where are we overall with parking? What is our plan? Do we have sufficient or don't we? I mean,
Mr. Wiltshire, has anything changed?
Nothing has changed.
what's the status then? If we're asking, if we've asked twice from the county for parking spaces to give us them,
I can, through the commission president.
where are we at?
To Commissioner Poole, I know planning has been surveying all of the parking spaces downtown for a period of months that will continue to this summer. I believe that at the most occupied time for the garage, which has over 200 spaces, the most cars that were occupied were, was it 70, Director Byington? 69. So I think that answers your question about the parking study. Those are free and public spaces to the community. We've asked the county, because it would be convenient for us, if we could park our city fleet in their garage, which we wouldn't want to take because those would be there overnight on a 24-hour basis. We have other options for those in the 400 or 500 off-street parking spaces we have within a block or two of the facility. And I think that's the request that Mrs. Johnson is referring to, but we have no concerns whatsoever about the number of spaces available downtown, as evidenced by that 30% maximum occupancy in the county garage.
Mr. Chairman, okay, you didn't mention asking for 35 spaces for people that are renting. Is that correct? That's from the county?
It's in the document that I have from the county.
So I apologize, I missed that part. Through the commission president to Commissioner Poole, we are looking at putting together a stronger residential permit parking program. Again, not as part of a study, but as part of putting together a management plan for parking. And that's something that we've been very transparent about, is that we're looking at resident permit parking, overnight parking, and on-street parking, and how to better manage those spaces, because what most urban areas you'll find is that they actually have more spaces than is actually required, but those spaces can be better managed to make sure that they're available more often for the folks who need them. And so this is all part of that process. Again, we have no need of any spaces from the county, although those spaces could be convenient. And so we wanted to ensure, and the counties showed a very openness to looking at their 200-plus spaces in conjunction with our, 500 off-street spaces that we control, not counting the Jackson Street Pier, and putting forth an effort to best manage off-street parking in the downtown. But I'd look at it as less of a plan and more of a management process to understand how to best utilize these, and ultimately looking forward to making recommendations to the community and then this commission ultimately.
Mr. Chairman, we also have to look at, originally there was going to be 2 grade schools at Adams, now it's just going to be 1 Ontario. So they was concerned about having 60, 70 parking spots, so that got chopped in half. That's got to help out too, as far as
absolutely
downtown.
So I guess my last comment on that is, I don't know if the county can really get away with charging for parking spaces in their garage. That's a question, because that was done with taxpayers' money. I thought that was a free garage, it would stay free. Maybe that's something you're gonna have to research on. And so when these people come and want to rent an apartment over City Hall there, those 18 apartments, they're gonna have to pay for parking in the county garage then, if that's what you're gonna do. And if you're not going to put them in the county garage, then you're gonna be parking on the streets, taking up spaces for the business that you're gonna put retail on the bottom and all these apartments on top. Now, that's crazy, and somebody didn't catch this, and now it's after the fact. We're looking for parking for this guy. We shouldn't be brokering spaces for this guy. Something happened, past planning completely. It's poor planning.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Poole.
Sports Force has run into this problem, and I think they're probably in a better position. Since they're a private entity, they're gonna have to deal with it, but it is an example of what, for whatever reason, they felt that they could weather the storm of not having sufficient parking on site and have resources for figuring out how to get their customers to their site. I don't think the city has that ability to fix this on the fly. And at some point, I'd like to have a comprehensive plan from the staff that says how we're gonna address this. We can't do this. We started the conversation with, if we move City Hall downtown, we'll need 35 parking spaces for the vehicles, and perhaps we'll rent them from the county. Okay, that's a start. Well, that leaves out the conversation about the 45 or 50 employees that have to move down there. And then it leaves out those employees coming from outside facilities that are coming in to meetings or whatever. Then we add 18 apartments, and there's just been nothing addressing that we have any ability to make this work. I think we need a plan, or at least the bones or guidelines or some semblance that appears that we actually paid attention to this. Planning for parking after we fill all the upstairs of these apartments, these buildings with people living, and going, oh gee, we don't have enough parking, something will give. Either they won't be able to get renters because they don't want to come down here, or we'll have to spend $15,000 a space raising the garage another 2 more levels, perhaps. And I'm not certain that the county, I'm not sure how the county figures they're going to charge some customers, some citizens to park in a public garage, and others will park for free. It sounds to me like we don't have a cohesive idea of what exactly is going to happen. So appreciate just soon getting information about what the real plan is.
My name is Catherine Carter, 5309 Columbus Avenue. What she was talking to as far as another parking study, we had the meeting with Mr. Persa Tuesday. He said there was a parking study going on as we were speaking. So that pertains to what she was talking about. I've driven through this parking lot in the middle of the day on the north side of this building. There's more than 100 spots here, and they were 3/4 full. So I don't know where all those people are supposed to park when everything gets moved downtown either. Mr. Waddington, congratulations on your 40 tons. Most people don't want to gain 40 tons, but that's a good job. The Lake Erie Shores and Islands for the birds, I was checking in on this. This was in the paper this week. It's been going on for 8 years, and between mid-April and late May, there's 77,000 birders. That brings in an excess of $37 million. They're driving right by us. I called 11 hotels on 250. Nobody knew anything about it. They didn't know when it was. They didn't know what it was about. No clue. And they're stopping at Sheldon Marsh and Osborne Park and Old Woman's Creek, and then they're jumping on Route 2. They're not coming through here. And we've got to, I don't know if we're not presenting the city well. I'm not sure, but they're bypassing this. And when you, please go up there on Saturday. You will see such a huge amount of people from everywhere. A lot of Mennonites come up. And there's a lot that could be sold to these people. I had a woman in Elyria last week say, it's too bad there's nothing to do in Sandusky. So I told her what there is to do in Sandusky, and that there's stuff at the State Theater every weekend and through the weekend, various times of the year. The Harlequins Theater, we've got Cruise in the Bay, we've got Splash at the Bay, we've got, what was it? We got the Farmers Market, concerts at the park, at the gazebo, Friday night car shows, First Thursday art walks, Ohio Bike Week kicking off the summer. The library has many activities and guests that come and talk to people about books they've written. There's Kid Fest, the kids up there fishing this week. They were so cute. One little boy was so upset because a goose kept trying to get his bobber. He didn't know how to chase the goose away. They were having a blast up there. Walk with the dock, fishing, marinas for the boaters, ferries taking people in and out. We've got restaurants running the gamut of tastes and price ranges, shops with unique items, and many interests. You can get everything from an attorney's advice to great tattoo. We're not presenting this city right. I don't know why no one knows anything about Sandusky except Cedar Point. And I hear it all the time. I hear it all the time. There's nothing to do in Sandusky. And I've always had something to do in Sandusky. You turn the TV off, you get your head out of your phone, and you come downtown and find something to do. If you go up Saturday, don't take pets. Don't take children that can't stand quietly for hours, and turn your phone off. Because I heard a man complain in one year that the autofocus on people's cameras were bothering the birds. So these people are serious people. They have life lists. They go all over the country and all over the world getting the birds on their life lists. They've got the money to spend. We got to get them down here.
Mr. Chairman. I challenge you to go down there this week. You'll see vans from Lakeside, Ottawa County. They do come down there. It's an Ohio Birding Trail number 49. Okay? They do come down there, trust me. You'll see several hundred people down there this week. That's why they made it one of the birding stops. So when they go to Lakeside, they come over here. I know they go all around, but they do stop in Sandusky. And that trail is vital. That's why last year when we had the little burp down there in the wooded area, we got that, fixed right away.
Mr. Chairman,
Ms. Lloyd?
I couldn't agree with you more. I hear that all the time, and everything you listed, we could probably talk for another 20 minutes about everything that's going on. It would be really nice, and I think our city would really benefit from some PR. So if we could find it in the budget somewhere, somehow, that's how you get people here. You have to get the word out, and we don't have someone on staff that's doing that.
I stopped on the turnpike coming home from Cleveland the other day, picking up flyers and stuff. And they have the Lake Erie Shores and Island. There's 32 pages. This is about Sandusky, and not all of it is about Sandusky. That's 150 pages in that book, and there's 32. I think it would be helpful if in the 4 rest stops along here, it just pertains to Sandusky. We have a flyer. Ashtabula has one. All these different other places on the lake have one book for their stuff, and it doesn't include Port Clinton and Milan and everything else. This has got a really bad map in it. We need a really nice updated map for Sandusky. I was at an open house, and there was a gentleman that was doing the open house, he had maps of Sandusky, and they are way, way, way outdated, years and years and years. Sandy Acres was put in, and his map doesn't have it on it. So I don't know if it's not being presented well in the paper or this way, I'm not sure, but something's missing because I keep hearing people, there's nothing to do up there, and all you have to do is get out. And there's been things to do up here for years. And I guess people are just starting to notice because we've always had a good time in Sandusky. And the theater and sitting and watching the bay and whatever. We always have a good time up here. So that's all I had to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Here, here, we agree. Anyone else present wishing to address the commission? Mr. Harris, I forgot to allow you an opportunity to introduce your distinguished guest.
Could you please stand up? Just for everybody to know, this is Chris Tyler. I think last year, he's a senior at St. Mary's. He's graduating and attending the Ohio State University. I think Mr. Whoopser last year had a student, I had a student. This is part of a senior project, so I don't want to put you on the spot, but if you want to say a few words.
Yeah, okay.
You're welcome to.
Yeah, right.
First of all, I'd like to thank you all for what you do for the city. I've lived here since, I went to kindergarten here. I've moved from Westlake to Sandusky, from preschool to kindergarten. And for my 13 years being here, it's been a great experience. And I thank each and every single one of you that's worked here for how long, from 1 year to how many years you've worked. I thank every single one of you for all you've done. So thank you for a good education, a good neighborhood, good community, and
I hope you have a great experience with Mr. Harris, and he doesn't bore you with too many stories about business invitees.
My only caution regarding Mr. Tyler is if any of you want to meet him, don't shake his hand.
Big boy.
Okay.
He does shake hands, Art.
With that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved. So moved. So moved.